Weird, right? Je me rase. Okay, so why am I talking about this and making a very weird display? Two ways to use reflexive verbs, and one of them is literally. Okay, when you do something to yourself, like je me rase. Enough with shaving, let's get to a real video. This is a 5-minute lesson on the 4 types of reflexive verbs. Feel free to add it to your favorites if you need to come back to it. So the 4 types of reflexive verbs that we're going to see: 1, reflexive in nature; 2, reciprocal verbs; 3, idiomatic; 4, and essentially always pronominal, meaning always reflexive. Okay, so what was I doing? Well, I was doing subject acts on itself. So that's what I was doing. Number 1, I was shaving. So, right, in the present tense, je me rase, I am shaving. Let's keep everything in the present tense for this lesson, okay? And there are 4 categories of reflexive verbs. We have some pronouns that I wrote down here. And so the subject acts on itself. So, je me lève, I wake up. Tu t'endors, you're falling asleep. Il s'habille, he's getting dressed. So you can see that we always use these pronouns with reflexive verbs. So yes, we do add in another nous. So if it's nous, it's going to be nous, nous. And if it's vous, it's going to be vous, vous. Let's move to the next part. So that was the first one. You're 100% doing something to yourself, and that makes more sense. But it's number 2 and 3 where I see that my French learners kind of like, they only get 1 and they don't do 2 or 3. So number 2 here, reciprocal verbs. That means that you're doing stuff to each other. So ils s'aiment is what I have here. Ils s'aiment, they like each other. So there's that reciprocal nature. Nous nous connaissons, so we know each other. Nous nous connaissons. Vous vous parlez souvent? Do you speak to each other often? Hang on for number 3. Number 3 is just the hardest for French learners, and the reason being is that they change their meaning once you go towards that pronoun. You slip in a pronoun, it becomes reflexive, now it's a different meaning whatsoever. So I had one of my followers ask me, could you do the difference between se faire and faire? And for sure, that's one that always throws people off. So se faire à is to get used to, but faire is just to do, completely different idea. Je me suis fait à l'idée. I got used to the idea. J'ai fait un café. I made a coffee. Whoa, totally different. S'installer, another idea. S'installer is to settle in, but then installer is to install. And the English learner will go with the cognate installer. They probably think it's install, but we probably say s'installer more. You arrive at a restaurant, right? Someone might say, can we seat ourselves? Right? They might use this verb. Se douter is to suspect. And versus douter, which is to doubt. Se douter, suspect. Douter, to doubt. And again, English learner is going to go towards 1. So what I've done for you is actually I've made a whole list. I can't crunch it into this video. I would just see everyone leave the video, it would be too long. So what I've done is I put a link in my bio and you can take a look at the list of idiomatic ones and their differences. Something that's really handy too is a blue bicherel, and the bicherel is a verb book, and the blue one is in English in the end. It shows all the differences between the reflexive verbs and not, but I'll add in the most common ones in my bio. Finally, essentially pronominal verbs, that means that they can only be used this way. Je me souviens, I remember. That always will be a reflexive action. Il s'évanouit, that's he's fainting, present tense. Nous ne nous moquons pas d'elle, we don't make fun of her. Putting it in between the pronoun and the reflexive pronoun. And then I've just kept this throughout. Me, te, se, s apostrophe, nous, vous, se, s apostrophe. I hope that helps. The reflexive verbs, tell me which one threw you off, or maybe you're still just practicing them. Add this to favorites. Let me guide you towards your French learning.